Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Arun Singh Thakur from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Today we are going to discuss about the module Government of India Code for Safe and Honourable Tourism from the paper Tourism and Hospitality Entrepreneurship and Legal Environment. The present module deals with describing the guidelines laid down by Ministry of Tourism, Government of India to ensure the safety and security of the tourists in India. After studying this module, you will be able to understand the need of the safety and security of the tourists for the development of tourism industry, know the guidelines for safe and honorable tourism laid down by Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, know the content of the pledge to be signed by all stakeholders of tourism industry, and know about the tourist facilitations and security organizations. So let us start. Safety and security is one of the important concerns of the tourists and the tourism industry. In the past 2 decades, the concern for the safety and security has gained much importance for the tourism planners and the government due to increased tensions between the countries and flourishing terror activities in many parts of the world presented a great challenge for the countries to protect their tourism sector, which is very vulnerable. Rise of the terrorist organizations such as IS, Al-Qaeda and other regional outfits make it really difficult to ensure the safety and security of the tourists. In this 21st century, there are many recorded incidents of terror attacks on the tourists. Tourists are the softest target for the terrorists and other social and anti-social elements to attack on. The future of tourism industry cannot be ensured in the light of growing menace of terrorists and other anti-social elements. Therefore, it is necessity is to study the relationship between the tourist and the security issues, which will provide a way out for ensuring safety and security of the tourist under the change purview of the safety issues in the recent past by the active support from the government and the security agencies. In the age of the mass tourism, controlling of these issues have become an important condition for the tourism industry to flourish. We need to learn from the history when the Greeks have suspended their war in view of the forthcoming Olympic Games. After the evolution of the mass tourism from the beginning of 1950, the major concern of security and safety issues arose. The intensity increases due to following factors. Due to the globalization and introduction of a new middle class gave birth to the mass tourism in the developing countries as well as in the developed world. Disposable incomes are on the rise and access to information along with the leisure time make tourism industry flourished. This exponential growth attracted the concentration of the bad elements challenging the safety and security of the tourist. Tourism is geographical in nature and its scope covers all the countries and regions in the world. This is challenge for the government to ensure the safety of the tourist being a soft target in the remote locations beyond the jurisdiction of the law. With the rapid development in the technology, infrastructure, more and more players coming into the tourism business, making it difficult to maintain the uniformity. These all are the reasons for increasing concern of the security issues as a result of the growth of tourism and especially mass tourism sector. What is safe and honorable tourism? India is the country having enormous scope for the development of tourism industry, and in fact it is the need of the hour to support the economy and generating employment. Government of India has taken various measures from time to time to ensure the safety and security of the tourist. The present module discusses the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India guidelines for safe and honourable tourism, and the content presented is almost in exact words to avoid the change in the meaning. Here we discuss the policy document as under. The first is to leverage the burgeoning of global travel and trade, and in keeping with the Indian tourism industry's objective of positioning India as a global tourism brand, the Ministry of Tourism has strategically outlined in its policy the central principle of Atithi Deva Bhava, that is, guest is God. In stating this is evident in the commitment of Indian tourism to ensure that every tourist in India is physically invigorated, mentally rejuvenated, culturally enriched, and spiritually elevated. To meet this objective, the Indian tourism under the National Tourism Policy of 2002 outlined the 7 pillars of tourism. 1. Swagat, that means to welcome the tourist. The other is Suchna, that is to provide all related information to the tourist. Then Suvidha, to provide facilities and facilitation. Then Suraksha, that means safety and security of the tourist. Then Sahyog, that is cooperation from all the stakeholders of the tourism industry. Then Samrachanam, infrastructure development, and finally Safai, that is cleanliness. Mark Twain once said about India that the one land that all men desires to see, and having seen once by even a glimpse, would not give the glimpse for all the shows of all the rest of the globe combined. In today's scenario, following safety guidelines is not just about adhering to the provisions of the 7 pillars, but also implies good business. As the demand from the travelers for safe and secure tourist destinations and tourism services increases, this code will assist signatories to build capacities among their services chains and personnel so as to be able to respond to this demand. The main threat that hinder its growth and progress is safety, security, and health situation. Failure to adopt effective sustainable development and management principles. Its central objective is to ensure that tourism activities are undertaken integrating the need to protect the dignity, safety, and the right to freedom from exploitation of all tourists and local residents involving in or impacted by tourism. In today's scenario, following safety guidelines is not just about sticking to the provisions of 7 pillars, but also implies in good business, as the demand from the travelers for the safe and secure destinations increases day by day, and we need to build capacity to fulfill that demand. Students, now we'll discuss the specific objectives of this Code of Safe and Honourable Tourism by Government of India. This code is a guideline of conduct to enable the Indian travel and tourism industry to first encourage tourism activities to be taken with respect for basic rights like dignity, safety, and freedom from exploitation of both tourist and local residents, that is, people and communities who may be impacted by tourism in some way, aid the prevention of prostitution, sex tourism, and form of sexual exploitation like assaults and molestation in tourism to safeguard the safety of persons, in particular women and children. Then to ensure and enhance prevention of activities like forced or involuntary drug use, manipulated and incorrect information, cultural and social intolerance which could increase vulnerability to the crime. It can further be concluded that the overall objective is to ensure the safety and security of the tourist by providing education, related safety and security issues, and also by making the citizens aware of the codes, guidelines and laws and the implementation of the programs of emergency services for travelers and tourists in order to assist them in the event of crime, to permit the successful prosecution of offenders at least possible burden to the victims. Then applicability. This code of conduct shall be applicable to all the owners, suppliers, contractors, employees of travel and tour sector including hotels, restaurants, lodges, guest houses, tour agents, entertainment establishments, etc. In addition, it shall be applicable to service providers like event management organizations, entertainment providers, transport operators like taxis, buses, tour guides and other services or agencies associated with tourism sector. This is not a legally binding instrument but a set of guidelines for tourism industry. In addition to these guidelines, included in this code are key messages that signatories are encouraged to use. Here are certain guidelines for tourism industry. The one, information and taking of personnel. Management will take up measures to build awareness and train staff on the guidelines of this code and appropriate legal provisions to enhance awareness and to ensure that personnel act in a manner that promotes the safety of tourists, local residents and their own staff. All hotels and tour operators shall train and maintain 2 persons as focal point to ensure that all safety norms and guidelines of this code are adhered to. The officers shall provide correct information to tourists like information on child lines, that is 1098, Women Helpline 1091, Local Police Helpline 100 and also act as a liaison officer with the agencies such as the local police station, immigration authorities, civil society partners working in this area, child and women welfare committees, etc. In case of an incidence of exploitation, personnel shall be sensitized to report correct information to the appropriate authorities, act in cooperation with law enforcement agencies, other agencies providing care and support and take necessary action to protect the interest of the individual whose rights are violated. In case of misconduct by a staff member or personnel of a service provider, signatories of the code will commit themselves to act in an unbiased manner, reporting the incidents to appropriate authorities and protecting the interest of the individuals whose rights are violated. Identified victims should be given immediate assistance in terms of need of care, legal, medical, psychological, without any further delay. The another point of guideline is public awareness and guest notification. Messages of intolerance to any form of exploitation must be made evident in appropriate places, visible to guests, employees, and other visitors. Guests and clients must also be provided information through the company's website, brochures, tickets, bills, in room and in flight communication, etc., on the issues related to commercial sexual exploitation, such as sex tourism, prostitution, pornography, forms of sexual assaults. In order to enhance tolerance for the social and cultural norms, signatories of this code must take action to provide information availability to their best of knowledge on the local, social, and cultural benefits norms. Knowledge and tolerance of different social and cultural norms will allow tourists to dress, conduct themselves, and respect local beliefs, helping them to adjust and thereby reducing the vulnerabilities they might face as foreigners to a particular destination. Signatories of the code are encouraged to assist tourists with guidance on safety tips applicable to the specific city or place, like places to visit, timing for the visit, right dressing, and precautions against moving alone and against accepting eatables and favors from unknown persons, etc. Guests and clients shall be cautioned against solicitations from the TOTs, non-regulated tourism operators, and encouraged to consult the website of the Tourism Ministry and other authorized websites. Signatories will ensure that a clause is included in the registration paper seeking commitment of the tourist to act in a manner that respect the dignity and right of the local residents and also to conduct themselves in a manner that shall aid the tourist's own protection against the exploitation. The another point is regulated use of premises and official equipment. Management owners are encouraged to prohibit usage of organizations' premises for use or abuse of illicit substances, sexual violations, and company equipment for viewing, storage, distribution, promoting, or use of material which could increase vulnerability to exploitation of the nature mentioned in this code. Individuals under the permit age shall not be allowed permission to into restrict areas like bars and pubs. Tourism service providers shall verify and maintain a record of details pertaining to tourists, personal and service providers like addresses, contact details, etc., and also commit them to maintaining confidentiality. The another point in the guidelines is ethical business practices and marketing. The management or the owners shall ensure that all contracts with business partners, suppliers, and franchisee arrangements bear a clause seeking commitment to provisions of code of conduct for safe and honorable tourism in their business. Any tourism enterprise or service provider found to act in a manner that undermines the safety of person outlined in this code and may be blacklisted. Sexually explicit images or concepts or images that may comprise the safety of individuals shall not be used for marketing purpose, and unambiguous company policy shall be set up to ensure that marketing and advertisement does not support the promotion of sexual exploitation or promotion of sexually explicit images. Signatories are encouraged to patronize vendors and service providers who are committed to adhering to the provisions of this code. The another guideline is implementation and monitoring. All signatories are required to maintain an annual report on code of conduct for safe and honorable tourism and submit it to designated authority. Management and owners shall report on training and capacity building initiatives carried out for personnel or staff and means adopted to raise the awareness on the safety among the guests, personnel and service providers. Then further, students will discuss about the key messages for awareness building and dissemination. The first is enhancing safety and security of all tourists. All signatories of the code are committed to act in a manner that protects the dignity and freedom against exploitation of persons, especially women and children, and facilitate prevention of incidences of sexual molestation, harassment of their guests, and provide assistance in case of untoward incidents. In case of exploitation, please call the Child Line 1098, the Women Helpline 1091, and contact relevant authorities like police or travel and tour operators. Like in many places in the rest of the world, tourists are encouraged to follow some basic and practical safety tips, such as to remain with a group or meet new people in public places, not to accept items from the persons whom they have befriended recently, be wary of unexpected, unknown persons coming to their hotel rooms, never open the door to unsolicited room service or maintenance people, etc. Tourists are encouraged to understand local social, cultural norms and beliefs and are encouraged to conduct themselves in a manner that respects these beliefs. Tourists must always take the advice of more than one person when seeking information on places to visit, shopping places, local customs, beliefs and norms, and remain vigilant on accepting completed documents. Tourists are encouraged to seek information from the Government of India recognized information centers and visits the Ministry of Tourism's website. Indecent Representation of the Women Act 1986, Section 2, Part C. Indecent representation of the women means the depiction in any manner of the figure of a woman, her form or body or any part thereof in such a way as to have the effect of being indecent or derogatory to or denigrating a woman, or is likely to deprave, corrupt or injure the public morality or morals. Then kidnapping or abducting in order to subject person to grievous hurt, slavery, etc. is an offence under Section 367 of Indian Penal Code. The next is assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty is an offence under Section 354 of IPC. And lastly, punishment for rape offences shall not be less than 7 years, but which may be for life, or for a term which may extend it to 10 years as the case may be, according to Section 376 of Indian Penal Code. Enhancing safety of local people. People across the world dress, eat and live differently and follow different values and norms. Tourists are encouraged to respect the local people and must commit themselves to acting in adherence to the local laws. Many tourists believe that they are protected by anonymity and thus laws are more easily violated. Any guest, staff, partner linked to this agency found to be indulging in exploitation outlined in this code or supporting it shall be reported to an appropriate authority. Human trafficking is a crime against humanity. It involves an act of recruiting, transporting, transferring, harboring, or receiving a person through use of force, coercion, or other means for the purpose of exploiting them. The consent of the victim of trafficking in persons to the intending exploitation is irrelevant irrespective of age. Acquiring or inducing any person, irrespective of the age or sex, for prostitution or causing a person to be taken for prostitution is an offence under Section 5 of Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956 and with a punishment of 3 to 7 years. Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, engaging in the production, manufacture, possession, sale, purchase, transportation, warehousing, concealment, use or consumption, import, interstate, export, interstate, import into India, export from India, or transshipment of narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances is an offence except for scientific and medical reasons. Punishment for the offence mainly imply imprisonment, fine, or both. The Foreigners Act 2004. If a foreigner to the country acts in violation of the conditions of a valid visa issued to him for his entry and stay in India, shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which may be extended to 5 years and shall also be liable to fine. If he has entered into a bond, then this bond shall be fortified. Then publishing or transmitting or causing to be published or transmitted material in any electronic form which depicts children engaged in sexual explicit act or induces children to online relationship with one or more children for and on sexually explicit act is an offence under section 67B of Information Technology Amendment Act 2008. Now students will further discuss about the pledge and the commitment. The Ministry of Tourism on 1st July 2010 launched the Code of Conduct for Safe and Honourable Tourism, and the tourism fraternity of 250 members came together and pledged abide by this new mission. The Code of Conduct lays down a set of guidelines for travel and tourism industry to ensure that all tourism activities in India protect the dignity, safety and right to freedom from exploitation of both tourists and the local population. Dear students, here I read the exact content of the pledge for commitment towards safe and honourable tourism and sustainable tourism. I solemnly pledged and reiterate our commitment to conduct our business in a manner that benefits the culture and ethos of our rich and ancient civilization and the tolerant and accommodating nature of our multicultural society and protects all individuals, especially women and children, from all derogatory acts which are contrary to the spirit of our country. We hereby commit to abide by the Code of Conduct for Safe and Honourable Tourism. Recognizing that every earth resource is finite and fragile, I further pledge to fully implement sustainable tourism practices consistent with the best environment and heritage protection standards such that my present tourism resource requirements optimize both local community benefit and future sustainable uses, and that pledge should contain the signature, name and the address and in whose presence this pledge was taken. The commitment and the pledge further focuses upon tourist facilitation and security organization. Safety and security of the tourist is a worldwide concern. Any adverse perception about the safety and security of the tourist has serious implications for the tourist arrivals to the country and its tourist destinations. The safety of the tourist visiting India became the matter of concern in the past few years, owing to the incidents of the crime reported against foreign tourists in several popular tourist destinations in the country. The scheme envisages partial central finance assistance (CFA) to be given to the states or union territories for undertaking the initiative of raising tourist facilitations and security organization limited to 50% of the expenditure for the first 3 years and scaled down to 25% of the next 3 years, and subsequently the entire expenditure to be borne by the states and the UTs respectively. Now, crime in India. Crime is present in various forms in India. Organized crime includes drug trafficking, gun running, money laundering and extortion, murder for hire, fraud, human trafficking, and poaching. Many criminal operators engage in black marketing, political violence, religious motivated violence, terrorism, and abduction. Other crimes are homicide, robbery, assault, etc. Property crimes include burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. Corruption is a significant problem. Some of the problems are listed here: illegal drug trade, armed trafficking, poaching and wildlife trafficking, the cybercrime, the corruption and the police misconduct, the crime against foreigners, petty crimes, scam incidents, passport thefts, and rape of the foreigners. Now we'll discuss the reliability. We need to understand the importance of the code, as India is a dominant tourist destination in South Asia, with around more than 5 million tourists visiting the country every year. While tourism has opened up new business opportunities all over the country, instances of crime and human right violation in connection with tourism, especially relating to commercial sexual exploitation of children and women, as well as to human trafficking, have also come to raise questions about inter alia the image of the tourism industry. In the light of this, the code of conduct by the government forms as strong basis of joint workforce and power and organized action by the tour providers, stakeholders and the government to maintain proper standards and honorable image. The day of the pledge of the code was taken, Mr. Rajiv Kohli, Vice President, India, Convention Promotion Bureau, affirmed his support to the code, saying, "The code gives a set of goals and values that we should all aim to achieve. These are basic principles that every country should follow. Achieving these goals will also make us look very good compared to our competitors, and it's good business practice at the end of the day." The steps taken by Ministry of Tourism to ensure the safety and security, including foreign tourists, will discuss now. This information regarding the steps was given by Minister of State for Tourism, Culture and Civil Aviation, Dr. Mahesh Sharma, in reply to a starred question in the Lok Sabha. In the steps, the Ministry of Tourism, on a pilot basis, has set up the Incredible India helpline to guide the tourist. Adoption of the Code of Conduct for Safe and Honourable Tourism, which contains a set of guidelines to encourage tourism activity to be undertaken with respect to the basic rights, dignity, safety and freedom from exploitation of the both tourists and the local residents, in particularly the women and children. all the chief ministers of the state governments and administrators of the union territory administrations have been asked to take immediate effective steps for ensuring a conducive and friendly environment for all tourists, and also request them to publicize the steps being taken, proposed to be taken to increase the sense of security among the present or prospective visitors, and also to counter the negative publicity, if any. In the wake of some unfortunate incidents involving foreign tourists, Ministry of Tourism has also posted an advisory on its website www.incredibleindia.org. Guidelines on safety and security of tourists for the state governments, union territories and tips for travelers have been formulated in August 2014 and circulated to all state governments and union territories. These guidelines have been issued with an objective to help or provide direction to the state governments and union territories administrations in formulating guidelines for tourist safety and security. The guidelines also include tips for travelers and cover the following: precautions to be taken during pre-travel arrangements, travel information on calamities and situations by the state government, identifying, locating tourists in times of emergency, government communication and inter-agency coordination, regulation of service providers, transport services and accommodation sector also, regulating leisure and recreational services including adventure sports, address insolvency and dispute settlement, and then enforcement. So, the students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Standards of safety and security are the main motivation factors for tourists visiting a country or destination within a country. In our country, the issue of safety of the tourist is now a major concern in many destinations. The tensions on line of control and international border with the Pakistan resulted in the negative perception of Jammu and Kashmir as a tourist destination, and tourists are now afraid to visit in view of the attacks in the past also. There are many reported incidents in our country compromising the safety issues of the tourists in many other states also. Safe and honorable tourism aims to strengthen the critical pillar of Suraksha, that is called as safety, and ensure Indian tourism follows international standards of safe tourism practices by minimizing the crimes on the foreign nationals as well as the international population in the name of the tourism. This is applicable for both tourists and the local residents, that is local people and the communities who may be impacted by tourism in some way. Thank you.